Welcome to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. The information provided on and made available through this video and podcast does not constitute as financial product advice. The information is of general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation or needs. It should not be used, relied upon or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice. We recommend that you obtain your own independent professional advice before making any decisions in relation to your particular requirements or circumstances.
Welcome to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. My name's Jeff and I'll be your host today. And I'm very pleased to be joined today by Financial Adviser Ashleigh and Mortgage Broker Kristi.
Hi.
Thanks, guys. Today we're going to be talking about renovate or relocate and finding the path to your dream home, which is a very exciting topic. Before we get into that though, as we normally start with, just want to ask you, starting with you, Ash, what have you been doing to be healthy and happy lately?
Well, it's the new year, so my partner and I have a New Year's resolution, I guess you would call it, where throughout this year we're doing one weekly walk in nature as a non-negotiable. So I'm based down in the Gong, so it's pretty nice. We get to go for bushwalks and kind of have made sure that we've carved time for spending more time in nature.
Beautiful. What about you, Katie?
For me, I am getting back into the gym, sort of focusing on doing some more weightlifting. So I'm trying to do that at least 3 to 4 times a week on top of the other activities that I do. But yeah.
We know you're a fitness
Very,
machine.
very dedicated.
Yeah. Excellent. Good stuff. All right, let's get into the topic of the day. So renovate or relocate, it's a very common question. And I guess to start with, how do we start unpacking that? We often hear people say, I really like my home, but it's not my dream home. So should I renovate it or should I relocate? What do you think people should start thinking about, Ash?
It's a question that we get a lot, and whenever I sit down with clients who have asked this, we always start with kind of scoping out and exploring why we want to renovate, or potentially what is missing in the current place that would make the home the dream home. So that's always good to explore, just to make sure that there's a good sense of what we're actually working towards, and that kind of facing that decision is the right path to realizing the dream home. Mm-hmm. Then we kind of walk through what the non-financial, so not the money side of it, what should you consider from a lifestyle perspective, because there's a lot of things involved with both paths. So when we're thinking of relocating, obviously that means we're moving. So if we're moving, what does that look like? Where would we go? Does it tie in with kids' schooling? If we're thinking of renovating our current place, is that advantageous because we have a good sense of community where we are? Mm-hmm. Maybe we have lovely neighbours or close connection to parents and friends and family. So that sort of lifestyle piece to make sure your home is in a good location and kind of fits the needs of your family now and in the future is a really good thing to consider.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I can relate my own personal experience to that. We decided to renovate our house 13 years ago now. And the process we went through was we needed more space. We just had kids and wanted some more space. And we went looking around for different places to buy. And ultimately got to a point where we were going to have to go and spend a lot of money to move somewhere we didn't really want to move to find the house that suited. So we made the decision to renovate. It was a big project. It took a long time. My wife, Leah, project managed a lot of that and takes a lot of credit. But it turned out to be the house is exactly what we wanted and has served us really well. So it might not be perfect for anyone else, but for us. And Leah did say that she's never, ever moving again after going through that renovation process. So, it's probably the pain subsided a little bit. But, that was a decision process that we very much went through. We really liked where we were living and wanted to find a way to stay there. So we decided to spend the money to stay in the neighbourhood.
I think you've touched on one of the big pros of renovating is that whole input, and you can definitely customise what your house looks like completely. So that's a really big advantage, but can also, I think, be a bit of a challenge, or, you know, that project managing piece where you actually have to find the time to manage all of the different builders and, you know, potentially architects and the stresses that come through from having your living space, you know, change shape completely, can be pretty stressful. So it's definitely something to consider as well.
Yeah, and not to mention if you need to rent as well is another consideration, because do you have enough funds to be able to pay for rent? And that's also something to consider when you're deciding to do this.
Yeah, we were fortunate. We spent about 10 months living with my in-laws, and so financially that was great. You know, that was challenging for them, I think, having, you know, 4 more people in their house.
Young kids as well.
Yeah, that's right. But, you know, they made it work, and so we were very grateful for that opportunity. But, yeah, it would have changed things a lot if we had to think about finding somewhere to rent and pay for that as well. So it's a good consideration. Which leads us to, I guess, what are some of the financial things that people need to think about? Obviously, that's one, cash flowing rent. What else?
Definitely start with a bit of a fact-finding mission. So if you were going to renovate, what actually needs to get done to the house and what would that cost? So typically, I would say most of the time when I meet with clients who are at the start of this journey and we're starting to explore it, the budget that they have in mind is often not what comes back quoted from the builders. So I would definitely encourage anyone thinking of doing this actually go out and get a good sense of what it would cost. And then do the same sort of fact finding for what moving would cost. So look at not just what the listed prices are for properties that you think might be suitable, but what the actual sales are, because sometimes they can also be a bit of a difference between what is online on the website listings for properties and what kind of, you know, the dollars at the end of the day. So that will give a bit of a sense of what you know, a new home purchase looks like and what the capital outlay of that would be.
Yeah, I think it's very hard in the last couple of years, particularly, you know, the renovation side of things, prices just keep moving away from you. Because, you know, we had supply chain issues off the back of COVID, which was making it hard to get access to the right, you know, materials. And then you had, you know, the infrastructure boom that we've gone through. So getting access to people to, you know, do the building has been hard as well. I think another key premise that I would add to, I think, you know, what you explained there, Ash, is a really strong process is we always often talk about for clients, if you're buying a home to live in, and we're talking about here, you know, dream home, always plan to spend 10 to 20% more than what you think you're going to do, because you don't want to go spend all this time building a new, you know, renovating your house, building this new house, and then 6 months, 12 months, 2 years later go, oh, I wish I had have just put the double garage in, or I wish I had have just put the pool in at the time or something like that. You do it up front, spend the money, same as if you're looking to buy a place. Stretch yourself that little bit extra. So from a, you know, financial planning 101, it might not be the soundest advice, but long term, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. There's not many places that you would spend as much time in your life as your family home. So I think it does make sense to invest in a good house that really meets what your needs are and what your family's needs are. And I think tying into that is also thinking, especially if you're at that stage of life where potentially your family is growing, or conversely, maybe you're you know, a bit older in your years and you're thinking the family might be contracting. What does the future needs of the house need to offer to make sure that if you do make a relocation or a renovation, you have the space or the facilities to kind of be a bit bulletproof in the next 5 years to come, 10 years to come.
Yep. So if you do decide to renovate, Kristi, is getting a loan or getting the finance to make that happen a hard process?
Well, I guess there's 2 types of loans that you can potentially get when you're renovating your home. The first one being a construction loan, and then there's also just an equity release loan. And the way some banks sort of assess this is if the renovation is structural or non-structural. So if there are sort of major structural changes happening to that property, the bank will see that as a construction loan. Construction loan is a little bit more complicated. There's a bit more work involved, but that's why you come to a mortgage broker to help you out with that process, because there's sort of heaps of documents that need to be provided by the builder, and those funds are, if you were just say approved for a maximum loan of $500,000, the loan actually isn't paid to you up front. It's sort of staged for the whatever the build is, and is then paid directly to the builder. So if the first stage is worth $60,000, the bank will release $60,000 directly to the builder. So the bank's effectively in control of those funds and how they get paid. If you're looking at just an equity release loan, which is a little bit simpler, you're in control of those funds. They'll release the funds to you, and it will sort of sit in redraw, and then you can sort of control where those funds, get paid to the builder or whatsoever. So that's sort of the two sort of loan that you can get when you're renovating.
So if we're talking a bigger project, which is what we did, construction loan is typically the method the banks like, unless I guess you've got a lot of equity in the place and it can stand up on its own.
Correct. Some bank, it just depends on the bank that you go with as well. So as long as you don't go over that 80% of the the value of your home, some banks are happy to sort of give you up to that value.
Yep. And I think the construction loan, as you said, it's harder to get set up potentially, but in some ways it can be beneficial because you're getting a bit more certainty around the process and the time frame and the costs associated. I know, there's always cost overruns and there's always variations, but it gives you a bit more certainty around that. Whereas if you're just paying as you go kind of thing, it can
get out of control.
Yeah. And I guess another sort of key subject that people talk about is if you do decide to relocate, you've got your current house. What's the timing? How do you if you want to buy before you sell, or you sell before you buy? What do you think there?
Well, I think buying and selling can probably be one of the most stressful transactions that you can go through.
No doubt.
But everyone does it all the time, so it is achievable. You just need to be prepared and have sort of a plan in place. Ideally, if you're looking to sort of buy and sell at the same time, you want to have, at least when you are looking for that property, you want to make sure that you negotiate a couple of things. First off, being a longer settlement term. That way, it will allow you to do what they call a simultaneous settlement, where your house and the house that you're buying settle at the same day.
Big day when that happens.
It is. So there's obviously a lot of parties involved.
Stressful day.
It's a very stressful day. So if you can negotiate with, the vendors that you're going to have that longer settlement, that just allows you to be able to do the switch without having to go, because the next option would be to get a bridging or a relocation loan, as they call it, which is another option. It's just, you need to be aware of the risks involved. You need to be able to, repay that loan after 12 months. If if something happened and you weren't able to sell your current home. So
talk us through that a little bit. How does a relocation loan work?
So basically, if you're sort of bought before you've sold, the bank will lend you the funds to buy that new home. Then you have 12 months to sell your home. You're not making any repayments, but that is capitalised into the loan. Right. So that interest over the 12 months. So you kind of want to, repay that as soon as possible, because the interest rate is typically higher.
Yep.
You're looking at 9.44% and higher
in the current environment.
Yeah. So it is quite expensive than being able to do like a simultaneous settlement.
And is there additional hurdles from a serviceability viewpoint on that, or is that pretty standard.
It's pretty standard. Not many lenders do offer a bridging
Right.
or relocation loan. So you are limited to a couple. So if your loan is already with another bank, you have to be prepared that you're going to have to refinance to that lender. That's and you might not always get the best rate.
Yep.
As well. So.
Yep. So I guess in that sense, planning ahead, having
key.
some approvals, having a bit of a process in mind about how you want to make it work is pretty important.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Any thoughts, Ash, before we wrap up?
I would just add that, having the plan in place and kind of talking to a mortgage broker and an advisor, especially together, can be really useful, because I know there's maybe 4 or 5 clients that Kristi and I have worked on together in the last year to help answer this question.
Yep.
And each time the answer is looked a little bit different. So
Yep.
it's not one way is always the right way.
Yeah.
It does
Correct.
change depending on some of these early topics that we talked about. But what we can really do is help you understand what it means in your situation and what it looks like from your cash flow and your goals and how it might intersect with other plans that you have. So it's a useful area to get some advice on.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Kristi made a really good point. Individuals usually do this sort of thing once or twice or 3 times in their life.
Yeah.
But people are doing it all day, every day. And Kristi's role and us dealing with our clients, we're helping people with these conversations and these processes and these transactions on a regular basis. So, Kristi's going to be across this 100 times a year where, most people once every 10 years.
Yeah.
So tapping into that sort of experience and that expertise to help just relieve, because it is a stressful process. So just relieve some of that stress by dealing with someone who's done it before can be really helpful. Thanks very much for sharing your expertise. Hopefully that's been helpful to people at home. Thanks, Ash. Thanks, Kristi.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for watching at home. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. If you'd like to learn more about anything you've heard in this episode, please give us a call on 02 9232 6800 or email admin@evalesco.com.au. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more Evalesco podcast episodes and stay up to date by following us on Instagram and Facebook.